And little by little by little, what goes around comes around, and we are facing a terrible time of judgment, I believe, by the divine forces in the universe, which men have called God. I don't know what God is, but I know what he isn't. One of my teachers once said, you can't make God do anything he doesn't want to, and if he's going to do something, you can't stop him. So consequently, since you can't influence it one way or the other, you should get in tune with the divine force of the universe and go with the flow. And that's what I believe, and that's what I've been trying to do all of my life. Just go with the flow and find out where the facts lead you. Because the more you begin to investigate what we think we understand, where we came from, what we think we're doing, the more you begin to see we've been lied to. We've been lied to by every institution. What makes you think for 1 minute that the religious institution is the only one that's never been touched? You can bet your bottom dollar that the religious institutions of this world are at the bottom of the dirt.
Words, original thoughts pertaining to science. And today's science seems to be the go-to man for all the answers. But science is limited in those answers that it can present. Science deals with physical facts. And as we know, or I hope you know, that the world is based on spiritual realities, and those physical facts will always be subservient to the spiritual realities. So science is really limited in the sense that it's not the leader, it's the follower. And then when we put science in that perspective, then we might hope to garner that truth in which it can hope to reveal. So in saying all that, I'd like to read these words to you that will put all of that into perspective. Just something for you to think about. And once again, this is for anybody that actually trusts in science. And some of you, I know, trust it with your life. That is a mistake. You should never expect science to reveal the absolute final analysis on those ever-enduring mysteries of the human race. So science by itself could never be that savior we want. Being that science is not the creator, it can never accurately explain this constantly expanding creation.
They were called the Phoenicians, and by the time they founded Carthage, they had already made their mark on world history. It's no accident, for instance, that words like phone and phonetics sound a lot like the word Phoenician. That's because the Phoenicians were one of the first to develop the spoken word into an actual written language. In fact, they were among the first to form sounds into written characters, creating an alphabet. Remnants of the Phoenician alphabet have survived even today in the language of one of the smallest countries in the world, the island of Malta. Not a bad shelf life for a language over 3,000 years old. But just who were these Phoenicians? The Bible refers to them as the Canaanites.
The religious institutions in this world are put there by the same people who gave you your government, your corrupt education. The Knights Templars who set up your international banking cartels in the 12th, 13th, and 14th century are the same people that gave you educational institutions, colleges. Where do we get the word college? College comes from the collegia, the Latin Roman college of cardinals. I could go on for hours just giving you examples. I mean, when you graduate, you come out with a square mortarboard, a black square mortarboard. What's all that about? Black square mortarboards. It has to do with the planet Saturn. Saturn, we're told that in the Old Testament that the Hebrew people, the Jewish people, were worshipers of one God. That's never been true, not true now, and never will be true. That's just one more story that's been given to us. That's never been true. The Hebrew people were worshipers of many gods, many different divine beings. They were the most eclectic theology on the face of the earth. Next to modern day Christianity is Judaism. Eclectic meaning it has collected from all over the world concepts and ideas and put it together and called it today Judaism. Judaism today is the most eclectic religion on the face of the earth. Virtually nothing of what it teaches is true. Virtually nothing of its supposedly background is true. And consequently, the world is filled with violence, bloodshed, or disorder. Good people are dying. There are children who are starving. Our world is in trouble. And people are calling out to God for protection. People are calling out to God to help our nation, and never realizing for one moment that the divine presence in the universe not listening. Why? Because you have your own concepts of whatever you think is true, whatever you believe to be true, but you have never confronted the real truth. The real truth is that the people who are in power, who put this system together, have been in power for thousands of years. This has been going on from day one. I have the highest of respect for the Bible. Anyone who knows me knows I read it and study it all the time. But I'm also well aware that there are encoded messages. The rabbis will tell you that in the Old Testament is filled with encoded messages. And I believe that Christianity is probably the most powerful encoded message the world's ever had. It's one of the oldest messages in the world, and I believe that the Christian teachings in the original scriptural understanding is the most important volatile story the world's ever known. And it's sitting right in front of you, and most people don't even see it. It is an encoded story. And unfortunately, too many people who are ill-informed, unread, and who have not spent 42 years looking at theology accept what they read in the New Testament and in the Old Testament as actual history, when in point of fact, it is not actual history. There is a message behind the message. And consequently, if you're reading the Bible, and if you're looking at theological subjects from the Bible point of view, in a materialistic way, you're never going to see the obvious story sitting right in front of you. I believe that the story in the New Testament, and I'm concerned about this because I believe the world is now facing another dark age. I think that we are now preparing ourselves to go into a very dark time that's coming on the earth. And I believe that the message that's in the New Testament is a very powerful, symbolic, metaphysical story that is not very well understood today. Let me go back to the original Hebrew religion. Because it forms the basis for Christianity, we need to look at where did any of these things come from. I'm famous for doing that. I couldn't care less who I offend. I want to know the truth. And all you got to do is go to any good library and just start reading. There are hundreds of great reference books out there that tell you where things have come from. First of all, all of the things which are going on in this world today, from 9/11, all of the wars in the Middle East, all of the incredible bloodshed that's being spilled all over the earth, can be traced back to, and you might want to remember what I'm saying here, because I'm sure you're not going to make the connection when I first tell you, but I'm going to try and explain it to you. The things which are happening today, the people who are in power in this country, the great generals from around the world who are planning wars and violence and bloodshed, all of this stuff can be traced back to the planet Saturn. Saturn is a very, very pivotal, important concept in theology and religion. And most people have never been told any of this and have no knowledge of it at all. But the planet Saturn is very important in world affairs, in theology. In the Islamic belief, the holy city of Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia, Mecca has a Masonic circle, and within the Masonic circle is a square, because you got to do everything on the square, remember. You have a town square, you have New York Square, you have Vatican Square, you have Red Square, you have all kinds of squares. Why? Because this is Masonic. And it goes all the way back into the ancient world, the terms and symbols. Again, the planet Saturn is called the Black Square. It's called the Dark Sun, the Black Sun. This is what the Nazis and the SS and the Gestapo wore black. That's why priests wear black. That's why judges wear black robes. Why do you think a judge wears a black robe? He wears a black robe because when you used to graduate from university, you wear a black robe. Why black robes? Darth Vader wears a black robe. What the hell does a black robe have to do with anything? The judges wear black robes. You know, Supreme Court judges wear black robes. Black robes represent the priesthood of the planet Saturn, the Saturnalian Brotherhood. All you need to do is study Nazism, and you will begin to see that the powers behind the Nazi Party, the Thule Society, the Germanian Order, were all members of something called the Saturnalian Brotherhood, the Brotherhood of Saturn. Saturn was the god of darkness, chaos, and destruction. He teaches you a lesson. He will take your life if you don't listen to him. So consequently, Saturn was very, very important in the ancient world. Thank you. Saturn's name, incidentally, in the old Phoenician ancient Canaanite religion, in the Middle East, the old Phoenician Canaanite worship of the planet Saturn was the most important god of all the ancient world, was the planet Saturn, and his symbol, long before the Hebrews were ever in Cana, the symbol in Cana for the planet Saturn was a six-pointed star. Today we call that star the Star of David. There was no Star of David. It's the Star of Saturn. All of the Jewish reference books, all the Encyclopedia Judaica, you go to the synagogue, go up into Mulholland Drive, up to the Jewish University and spend 3 weeks there and look up Saturn. You'll find out that 98% of all Judaism is a worship of the planet Saturn. Better wake up and understand where this stuff comes from.
people do not understand that the Old Testament is written in code. I'm talking about actual code as in, high-level physics. Stories about reflections, light waves, atomic weights, dates, what else? Vibrations, mathematical codes that are what that thing up in the sky creates.
Here are the black robes. Why black robes? Why black squares? The black robe is the black robe of the planet Saturn. Again, here are the judges all swearing allegiance in Nazi Hitler. And here are the priests in, incidentally, the priest uniform is called, here it is, just a minute, all black robes. Why black robes? Darth Vader wears a black robe. Yeah, devil worshippers wear black robes. Ayatollah Khamenei wears a black robe. Yeah. Yeah, Omar Gaddafi wears one too. There they are. Some of the most bloodletting murderers the world has ever seen. The Order of the Garter. In England, you will see Churchill on the lower right. It's called the Order of the Garter. The black robes. It's very, very extremely powerful secret society in England called the Order of the Garter. Many people think it's like a woman's garter. No, it was the guards who guarded the powers in England. They guard the powers. They are like a mafia, underworld organization. A very powerful secret society with the black robes and the red strips. The red represents the same thing as the red, the scarlet-colored wild beast of Revelation. The red is very important, and you'll see they're also wearing the old ancient symbol of the cross.
So, people that are just tuning in are saying, I don't know, this seems a little out there. Well, it would be if you're coming into advanced trigonometry from 6th grade. It wouldn't make any sense to you. Those of you that have hung around understand it. But for somebody that's just looking at this now, this is going to make absolutely no sense. Because you have to be eased into this kind of knowledge. You can't just be thrown into it because it'll bust your head wide open. Once you see it, it's very, very clear that there's really something going on. And it's not hidden, that's the thing. It's right in front of your face for you to find out the truth, but nobody wants to know the truth. A very few want to know. A very few want to know. So what do? They go and make movies like The Wizard of Oz. And everybody goes, ooh, that was a good movie. That's a good children's movie. That ain't a good children's movie. That's a motherfucking occultic movie if there ever was one. Star Wars is another one. To them, it's entertainment because that's all they're ever going to know. Because that's all they ever want to know. They don't want to dig. All they want to know is, did the Chicago Bears win or did the Bulls win? What kind of mentality is that?
People see something like this on television. Oh, it's very holy. The only thing holy in Rome is the stories. They're full of holes. The concept is the whole thing is nothing but a story. And it has been misrepresented. And again, let me say, I am totally convinced that the New Testament is a profoundly important story. but it has been misrepresented by the people who are far smarter than we are. They have put all of this stuff together and they figured we'd never find out. Well, I've taken 42 years of my life to go through this material, and I haven't even scraped the surface. I could go on for weeks talking about this kind of thing. The point I'm making here is that we need to wake up and find out what these symbols mean.
If you really want to know about something and you study the origin of it, you get to the bottom of it, get to the roots. You start seeing things that you ain't recognized before. Like, oh, wow, this is kind of deep, son. This is some other shit. It's not what you thought it was.
You need to understand that there's a very powerful story in the New Testament that is telling us what God's thoughts are. But you need to understand it is symbolic, and there's a powerful story there. And one day, if I am invited back, I will do nothing more than for 4 hours do a whole theological discussion about the New Testament and the real story that's encoded in the New Testament, because I believe it's a very powerful story, but it's not the one you think it is. So consequently, my last comments are, I do not wish to offend, I wish to educate, because I believe that's what the divine presence in the universe would want, is truth. Know the truth and it will set you free.
And this is my all-time favorite. I just love how they take Jesus and they crucify him with 3 fingers out. Isn't that real nice of them? I mean, they couldn't stop with the story where when they were humiliating him of putting a purple robe on him. No, they have to go and make it with the 3 fingers showing. You see, isn't it how wonderful this is? Now, why are you seeing all of this stuff in the Christian church? Because there's no such thing. It's Masonic. The Masons build every church, every temple, every mosque on the planet. All of them shitty-ass songs resonate at a certain frequency within the building that they're built, because they create things, and they bring things up, and they make things happen within a certain space. A lot of science involved in there, more than you would know.
that at certain times of the year, based upon our orbit around the Sun and our alignment with the Moon and other planets in the solar system, creates windows of opportunity by which the power that he used to do the miraculous was easier to access and utilize.
Okay guys, well this is pretty cool actually. What we're looking at here is a picture of the heat signatures on two of Saturn's moons, Mimas and Tethys. And I really love this photo because it shows me a very unusual geometric shape here. We can quite clearly see that this looks like a part of a triangle. Now, unfortunately, the article in regards to this appears on space.com, which is connected to NASA, and the best they can do is try and tell us that this looks like Pac-Man. In fact, they have mentioned Pac-Man about 20 times throughout this article. Not once do they mention it looks like a triangle, or at the very least, the top of a triangle, or the top of a pyramid. Not once do they mention that it looks like a very unusual geometric shape with very straight lines. They just continually tell us that it looks like Pac-Man. So to me, this really does show me they have nothing but contempt and treat us like idiots. Now, interestingly, the first heat signature here was discovered in 2010, and then they discovered this one in 2011. Now, it goes on to say at the end of the article that the surface oddity was first sighted by NASA's Voyager spacecraft in 1980. But they don't say if it looked like this. They just say that it was an oddity. They don't say if it's changed since when they first saw this in 1980. They don't tell us whether this heat signature has been experiencing a lot of differences during the times that they have first actually seen this. So, you know, once again, we don't get very much information from NASA at all, but really we shouldn't expect anything, you know, more from NASA. They are the mouthpiece of these government agencies. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting, this shape, because as soon as I saw this shape, I actually didn't see Pac-Man. What I saw was what I've been seeing on the Sun, these triangles. So I find it really interesting that this geometry seems to keep turning up again and again. And, you know, we also see that at one of Saturn's poles, there's a hexagram. So once again, we see this very unusual geometry with Saturn. So you think that that would actually rate a mention with NASA? Obviously it doesn't. Now I just wanted to show you this really unusual correspondence to one of Saturn's moons, this one here, Mimas, and George Lucas's Death Star. And the reason that I find this really interesting is, one, they do mention it in the article, but two, now that we're starting to see that there is a definite connection between people that are very creative and their ability to tap into universal consciousness, I think we should start paying attention to a lot more of these very creative types of people and what they were relaying to us.
So if you get in a big pile of crystal quartz type rock outcropping, and you sit there and there's a big electrical event going on inside the earth, the rocks will act like speakers and you'll hear the sounds. It's got to be quiet, real quiet, but you can hear them.
Wow. Certain rocks you can hear.
They change their shape depending upon the electric field they're in. You put electrostatic field on a rock, it changes its shape. If you change its shape, it produces an electrostatic field.
It has been stated for decades that Edward Leeds Scalman said that he had discovered the secrets of the pyramid builders of Egypt. In fact, on the Coral Castle website itself, it states in regard to this topic that Ed would only say that he knew the secrets used to build the ancient pyramids, and that if he could learn them, you could too. Today, hopefully, I'm going to show you that this may have been true. In fact, I believe it to be true. And I don't believe this based upon stories that I have heard, but based upon scientific and obvious reasons that I can point to today. The first reason speaks for itself. The fact is, no scientist, no engineer, no one who is experienced in the art of stonemasonry has replicated what Edward Leeds Skalman did over 70 years ago. In fact, if you search YouTube for the video that I'm showing here, it is part 2 of In Search of the Castle of Secrets. It is clearly proven in the video and stated by the man at the quarry that a single man with primitive tools could not have moved the coral blocks that Ed purportedly did by himself without modern machinery. There is a second reason that Ed may have known the secrets of the pyramid builders, and that is there is a similarity between the coral that was used to build the Coral Castle in Homestead, Florida, and the stones that were used to build the Great Pyramid of Giza thousands of years ago. Let me show you what that correlation is. But before I do so, let me tell you about something. Let me first tell you a little bit about coral. Now, coral is made from a substance called oolite, and oolite is a sedimentary rock formed from what are called ooids. Ooids are small spheres that are mostly composed of calcium carbonate. Remember that word. Calcium carbonate is a substance that is secreted by the corals, or polyps, which are the little animals that actually live in the coral reefs. The coral reefs grow as the polyps, and the other organisms deposit calcium carbonate, which creates the coral reefs themselves. So to summarize, a coral reef is the result of small creatures called corals or polyps that secrete calcium carbonate, which creates the coral reefs, which later becomes oolitic limestone, which is what most of southern Florida is actually made of. Now let me give you one more definition, which will help you tie all of this in. Another definition for what coral is this. It is a coral reef or limestone structure that was produced by living organisms. And limestone is a type of rock composed primarily of the mineral calcite, another important word to remember, which is the crystalline form of calcium carbonate. So what does this have to do with the Great Pyramid of Giza? The Great Pyramid of Giza was built with an estimated 2.3 million limestone blocks composed primarily of the mineral calcite, the crystalline form of calcium carbonate, which is the same material that makes up coral. So there is our connection. The oolitic limestone, the coral that Ed Leeds Skalman used to build his coral castle, is made up of the same skeletal coral structures that the limestone at the Great Pyramids of Giza was made from. The stones, though given different names, are in composition absolutely identical. So then you may ask, what does this have to do with understanding the secrets of the pyramid builders? What can the similarities between the constitutions of both coral and limestone have to do with his ability to move 1,100 tons of coral without the aid of modern machinery? It has to do with its crystalline structure. Earlier I had mentioned that both coral and limestone share a common mineral. It is called calcite. Calcite, the crystalline form of calcium carbonate, is the primary component of both coral and limestone. Calcite is part of what is called the trigonal crystal system, and within this system is what is called a hexagonal lattice.
In early 2007, modern imaging technology revealed something else on Saturn that astounded scientists.
We see it very, very intensely now.
It's something big, something strange, and something never seen in the universe before. Saturn, the solar system's most bizarre yet beautiful planet, has just gotten even more mysterious. In 1979, the Voyager spacecraft showed a perfect geometric form over the North Pole. In October 2006, the Cassini craft found that it is still there.
It's just bizarre, and it sits there kind of still. It doesn't move with the planet. The pole, there's a hexagonal feature, a six-sided polygon that encircles the pole at about 78 degrees north latitude. And it's sitting there as a set feature.
The hexagon is similar to Earth's polar vortex, which has winds blowing in a circular fashion around the pole. Saturn's vortex can fit 4 Earths inside of it and extends 60 miles deep into Saturn's clouds.
And what's more bizarre, Voyager saw little tiny clouds going around at about 100 meters per second, which is about 200 miles an hour, going around this racetrack. People thought, well, maybe it's just a temporary thing. How could this stay there? It's been there now for at least 20 years.
Okay, so you're standing there, and what have you noticed?
That the wire is being pulled by something in the stone.
By something in the stone.
Yeah.
And we've looked up here, and we've actually found a mark in the stone of a fairly sizable bolt,
Yeah.
isn't it?
Bolt.
A
Yeah.
big bolt. And this is right on the crescent moon of Eds. Right under, right in the centre of it, and right below this chair, which is where the first abnormality of this rod was taking place. We also found a very strong pull to just about 8 feet from that post in alignment with those, what would you, condominiums, some description? Apartments. And just around the corner here, what did we find when you ran the wire again? We came around the side where the pool is and the north compass. We aligned it to the north compass, didn't we?
Yeah.
And, oh, by the way, it's Peter from Atmospheric Ionisation. And what else did we find here? We aligned it, and we actually found a hole.
Yes.
And somebody's left a Valentine's love message in there, which is absolutely fantastic. And this is right underneath, on the outside wall of this triangular cube space. And it aligned it directly to this center hole. Is that correct?
Yes.
Tell me again, what did it do?
It lines up with the hole.
Did it?
Yes.
It really pulls itself towards that center hole. Okay. And then we walked around the perimeter, didn't we?
Yeah.
We took off across and followed the wire. The wire's doing all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff, isn't it?
Yes.
And how did you know to start doing this?
You can feel it, and it pulls my hands when it does that, and it also points in certain directions.
Right, okay. So you just follow and walk the direction?
Yes.
Okay, let's go. See what happens when we walk this way. Let me just come out to the top. And it's turning again.
Yes.
Oh, really? Oh, isn't that interesting? Same location. Let's keep going. Right the way around. It hasn't straightened up yet.
Yeah, it's still pointing back towards that.
Is it? So it's a very strong pull?
Yes.
Okay, so now it's letting itself go. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
It's not.
And it's now aligning itself. Good?
Yeah.
Yep. And turned away or turned around again. Hold it way out in front of you again, but it's pointing towards water.
Okay.
So we know that. Keep walking. Right the way around. Just want to see what happens when we go right the way around the other side. Just relax your arm down a little bit. Just bend your elbow back towards you. Yeah. And just let it sit out there. Okay, I'm just going to walk in front of you. I just want to come, follow me. This is the quarry. I just want to see you walk right up past this place here and just follow the wire. Did it push away?
It did just displace it. Oh.
It is. Okay,
Yeah.
just go back and follow the wire. It's pulling you there. Walk this way. And now there.
Yeah.
Stop, look down.
Oh.
I wonder what that is.
Wow.
Looks like an earth pin that Ed put there. This was his original, or possibly one of the original posts that he used to ground and make a mark for.
Oh, wow.
Oh, by the way, if we look up, we get an alignment with the north. See that? The North Polar Star, right back over this way.
Yes.
Okay, so he lined that up with that as well.
Is the sun actually, do you believe, combusting in on
It's
itself?
not burning anything. There's no fusion in the sun. That's well understood.
Prove it.
Yeah, well, there's just not the way to prove that there is any. It's only in the flares that you get fusion. That's why all the X-rays. The flares, the arcs, and the X-rays, and the microwaves, and whatever result of fusion in the arcs. There's no fusion in the sun. They don't know how the sun works.
Why do you, what's special, how does the sun make light?
It's a transformer. Transforms from some other dimension. It's not burning anything. It doesn't have to. It's a converter.
Of what?
I don't know. Nobody knows. But that's what it does. That's the only thing it can do, because that's how everything works.
It's transforming from another dimension.
Yeah, you could say it's taking energy from another dimension, counter space.
Can't go back, can I?
No. But if you could, would you really want to? I didn't say it would be easy. I just said it would be the truth.
You ever have that feeling where you're not sure if you're awake or still dreaming?
I know exactly what you mean. You have the look of a man who accepts what he sees because he is expecting to wake up. Ironically, this is not far from the truth.
Okay. I want to read this to you. This is from that hurricane. Supposedly, the guy, whose name was Sandy Fry, which is interesting because he did a simulation of it in 1997. Okay? It wound up being called Hurricane Sandy. But then when we read this underneath, it says, these texts were used as a drill simulation or stimulus. Now listen, this is where it's interesting. Look what it says here. They were time shifted. Okay? I told you they're messing with time to stimulate landfall around 6 p.m. on Saturday. So we got 6 and 6. October, right? 4. It says working backward from this time. We use these texts to generate and automatically update a World Wide Web. Wika or Set. Set is Egyptian. Okay? And send email to the Westchester Ares. This is an important word right here. Whether you can read this or not, go full screen. ARES, almost like Aryan, right? Races. Email reflector to Fax County Emergency Operation and the National Weather Service. This is getting way out of hand. And I'm going to show you some more stuff here in a second. Just so you get this. This is all utter bullshit. We are being completely fucking screwed here. Completely. I don't believe nothing on the news. Nothing. Okay, let's continue on. Let's see who Ares, because it was Ares/race. Okay? He's a Greek god, okay? Was the Greek god of war. He was one of the 12 Olympiads and the son of Zeus and Hera. He often represents physical or violent aspect of war. Okay? So, we've got reversal of time, we've got war, we've got a guy named Sandy. So we know that this Ares guy is involved in war. Well, Saturn and Mars play both of these parts. Okay? But here's the kicker right here. And I want you guys, do you remember a couple years ago, was it a couple years ago, where they said, oh, the American troops are being completely and overwhelmingly stressed out from being there, and they killed a puppy and it was on YouTube, and everybody was like freaking out? I'm going to show you why they really killed that puppy. And it's the same reason that they're using this name, Ares Races, okay, in conjunction with the hurricane that came through, because it all comes down to the same fucking thing. Now, you guys remember this? Live links. That was 2008. I'm sorry, it was longer ago than I thought. U.S. soldier throws puppy off cliff in Iraq. Okay? See this here? Why would somebody do that? Oh, he's so stressed out. You better understand what mentality you're dealing with here. You're dealing with a bunch of fucking crazed, bloodthirsty racist. And I'm going to prove it right now. Let's look. Cult and ritual. Although Ares received occasional sacrifices from armies going to war, the god had a formal temple and cult at a few sites. At Sparta, okay, now we're talking Rome, okay? We're talking Roman, we're talking Saturn, we're talking that particular fucking ilk. And what comes out of Rome? Nazis, dude. Nazi, it's all Nazism. At Sparta, however, youths each sacrificed a puppy to Enyalios before engaging in a ritual at Phobia, whatever. The knight sacrifices a dog to Enyalios, became assimilated with the cult of Ares. Okay, so look at here. That guy they didn't flip out and kill that dog. They killed that dog because the same reason they killed those people in New York City. It's all the same thing. That's why it says in that briefing that it's Ares/races. It's Ares. Ares races. Aryan. Wake the fuck up. Stop listening to the news. Stop listening to anything to do with telecommunications. As far as them telling you what's going on. I'm telling you, the news is not going to tell you, and they're going to go from city to city wiping people out. That's what's happening. I'm sure of it, and it's already started. Do it. Believe what you want. It's all right there. It's right in your face. Fucking guy was 9 years old. It's a simulation of one, yet it's really happening. What the fuck is going on here to us? What are they doing to us? This is crazy. Anyway, let's look at this. I think this is from 2000. It's either 2002 or 2006. Bush said this, and I remember a long time looking at this saying there's something really wrong with this. In a 14-minute speech, twice President Bush mentioned and asked the question, does the angel in the whirlwind still direct this storm? Does the angel in the whirlwind still direct this storm? I gotta tell you, it sounds awful suspicious like what happened in New York. Does the angel in the whirlwind still direct the storm, referring to America, is what I think. And then when I went and I looked it up, you could go and look this guy's name up, the second, third, and fourth lines. The fourth quatrain, interesting, 4 cube, which is the statement that contains that the angel in the whirlwind directs the storm and he hurls death. Is that not what we saw in New York? I come off as a hard ass and I scream a lot, and I'm sorry, but, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. It's just the times that we live in, and people better start understanding this isn't fairy tale shit. There were people that were in there that were killed by something that wasn't human. And they burned the fucker to the ground. That's how you get rid of the evidence. That was not a storm. Look at the storm pattern. It was going north and then it just made a left. Hurricanes don't do that. They hit the coast and they cartwheel up the coast. Okay, that thing was coming. I told you, Coney 2012 means knock out New York. And I said over and over again, it was either New York or Chicago. It was New York. So please, pay attention to this stuff. It isn't a joke anymore. It isn't a conspiracy. Fuck 9/11. All 9/11 was telling you that it had begun. 9/11. Revelation 9/11. And they had a king, and he was the king of the bottomless pit, and his name was Abaddon. But in the Greek, his name is Apollyon. Okay? Isn't it interesting that it happened on 9/11? And then it coincides with with Revelations 9/11? Because they're telling you. All you got to do is just think a little bit. Alright, the birds might be a little noisy, sorry, nothing I can do about that. Look, basically, every one of these points, you got Brighton Beach here, interesting, you got a pink and a purple and yellow here on the woman. From the financial district, all of these streets, okay, all were part of that storm and that flood and that whatever, the destruction, okay? But all the rest of these, the Yukon Territory, Nebraska, Tenafly, New Guinea, Mount Fuji, Las Vegas, every one of those, with the exception of Nebraska, had an earthquake on the 30th, the same time that the storm was going on. You can't ignore this connection where they put Saturn center of the Earth. There is a cube in the center of this planet. What's inside that cube are the things that are coming out. This all goes back to the whole Chilean miner thing. Okay? If you go look in the video where you see where it says Tenafly, I clicked on YouTube, and the first one came up, and the time that the guy stamped on there is 3:30. Well, you know, it's ridiculous. The Nebraska earthquake happened October 18. That's 9. And it was a... oh, let's see, it happened on the 18th. You know, I mean, it happened on the 18th, it was a 1.8 or something, but they both equal, no, it was a 3.6. So it's 9 and 9 again, that's 18, that's 9. There's something going on, when it's all 9, something's gonna bust loose. I don't give a shit what anybody says. The New Yorker just doesn't put nutty things on the front just to do it. If you go look at the artist, he's way into the occult. I believe these are exit points. Okay, if you look at New Guinea, not a lot of people living there. There's plenty of jungle, places to hide. Mount Fuji, ain't nobody living up on the top of there. The Yukon, that is up in Canada, and that is it's all forested, but it's desolate. And what I mean by that is there ain't a lot of people living in that area. You know, this all goes back to the Titans. It all goes back to Tartarus and them being released and just a whole bunch of stuff. So just understand, it's not a coincidence that there were earthquakes on the 30th, the same time that storm was going on. This stuff is just beginning, and when these things come out of the ground, I don't know what they are. If biblically it says, and there were giants in the earth, so you know, is that what's coming out? I don't know. But you got that cube, which represents Saturn, or represents the cube that those things are locked in that are coming up. It's just too weird. It's too weird, but it shows that there's a pattern to this stuff.
But the idea of an avatar or a teacher has been with us for thousands of years, and it's true. Every time the world is heading into darkness, it seems like God or the divine presence in the universe moves certain people in their heart to stand up against the darkness and help their fellow man, like the scripture says, you know, just carry even one candle will light a darkened world. So I believe that there is something to this idea that God raises up individuals to enlighten his fellow man at, you know, in dark periods of history.
Could I ask you one other question about astral theology? Have you looked into the Mayan calendar? What do you think about that?
Well, I think the Mayans and the Aztecs and the Incas and the Toltec and all of those ancient people, I think South America and Central America is just cram-filled with interesting ancient stuff. And we tend to feel that the Egyptians and the people from that area of Africa and in Europe somehow or another got over here to South America because we still have the same pyramids and the same symbolism. We find the same symbolism in Central and South America we find in the Middle East. And so obviously they came from the Middle East and Egypt and Africa across to South and Central America. I'm saying, maybe not. Maybe it started in Central America and South America and went to that way. Why do you, and I am totally convinced in my own mind that the most ancient cultures on the face of the earth, as in South America and Central America, probably 100,000 years old or more. In Peru and Brazil and that whole area of the world, I think, is just replete with ancient stuff that far, far exceeds anything Egypt ever did. So I'm seeing that there's a whole world of questions that we've never been allowed to ask. I think the Central and South America is the epitome of ancient civilizations. I don't even know, I don't think that the ancient Mayas and the Aztecs and those people, those are the ones we know of. I think that there were some very old ones, like Earth Base 1. Earth Base 1 is in the Andes. It's as high up in the Andes as you can get. And it is it's so high up that people going there today can hardly breathe. Even mountain climbers say it's very difficult to breathe. It's so high up, and yet the stones are like 100 tons, 300-ton stones, and they're all cut flawlessly and pieced together. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, who moves 200-ton stones in air that even the best mountain climbers can hardly catch their breath? And there's no way to plant food up there. You don't plant anything up at that height. So how did these people feed themselves and move 200 and 300-ton stones? And not one, from all over. They're just huge temples built with these stones. And I'm saying somebody better start looking at this. I'll tell you what I think really happened. I think that we are a creation of someone else. I think that's what happened. I think somebody came here a long time ago and created us. And they're still with us.
Where is Earth Base 1 that you refer to?
It's I'm not sure. I think it was Ecuador, but I'm not sure. But I'll tell you where you can find it. Well, you just look for it. Just call Earth Base 1. You can look for it in reference works. And on the web, they got a lot of material on Earth Base 1. They call it Earth Base 1 because it seems to be the oldest city on the earth.
I do get knuckleheads on here that watch one video, and because they don't get it, then they they've got all the answers. You don't just get all the answers. I bet I don't even know 1/100% of what's going on. I know that there's one major thing involved, and that's that thing that's called Saturn. This is one of the biggest lies that comes out of the Bible, because it's not a lie if you understand what it is, but it's a lie the way it was taught to you. You're told, for those of you that are churchgoers, and for you of those who aren't, you'll know what the word is. Sin, S-I-N. The word sin is supposed to mean that you're bad, and that because you're sinful, God can't have anything to do with you. Well, the word God refers to the planet Saturn. It does not refer to the Creator, who stands above the one that men have called God, which is the planet Saturn. The word sin comes from it's from physics. It's used in quantum physics. What is quantum physics? Quantum physics has a very old, ancient name, and that name is Kabbalah.
I'm a theoretical physicist, and I like to say that I walk in the footsteps of giants like Albert Einstein and Niels Bohr. I'm not a philosopher. However, I am rather dazzled by the fact that many of the basic mysteries that we find in string theory and the theory of everything seem to be mirrored in the Zohar and in the Kabbalah.
As a scholar, the most amazing thing of all is the degree to which modern astrophysics sounds like a Kabbalistic text.
Albert Einstein, when he was creating the atomic bomb or writing up the theory for it to work, used Kabbalah. Came up with E equals MC squared. You got what? Five symbols that equal volumes of information. These are lies that have been perpetuated. People do not understand that the Old Testament is written in code. And I'm not talking about this bullshit Da Vinci Code crap. I'm talking about actual code as in, high-level physics. Okay? The word sin, S-I-N, comes from the word sine, S-I-N-E. If you look at that, this is a sine wave. Yeah? It's a sine wave. The straight line that you're seeing, that's called linear time. That's going from your birth to your death, okay? The wavy line, that's a sine wave, okay? That's a sine wave. Bear with me. The word sine in physics is abbreviated as sin, okay? Now, there is another wave, it's going to be in blue, that runs along the same line as time, okay? And what that is it goes like this. This one is called a cosine wave, as in cosigner. That's right where that comes from. That's a cosine because it rides the back. It's so tight to the other wave, it's called a cosine wave. Now, you see, you have red and blue, and they both are interacting with time. So, one is time, one is space. Okay? Those two together create time and space. Red and blue, which represents the planet Saturn. The time and space. So why is sin evil? Because sin is the abbreviation for sine, which represents time. And incidentally, the serpent in the garden is right here. Okay? That's the serpent. Okay? The serpent is time. Now I'm going to show you something else. Bear with me for a second. This is where your caduceus comes from. That's time and space running along a linear, that's a cosine and a sine wave, running along the vertical line, which is sine or sin. Here we have the wings. That's what your symbol is that you see, the caduceus. The single one is just a snake, which is it looks like an S. That's the serpent. Okay, so why do they say that we're sinful? They say that we're sinful, or that you're born of natural sin, because you're born into sine. You're born into sine. You're born into time. And when you're born into time, when you're born into sine, you're born into sin. Now, why does sin keeps you away from the Creator? Why? Because here, that's ruled by time, the circle, and space, the square. The Creator is timeless. There is no time where he exists. It's a loop. You go around and around and around. You have to arise above that and get to where there is no time. So when they say, oh, man's born of natural sin, you are born into the third dimension. And as the Bible says, the wages of sin is death. When you're born into the third dimension, you live in the third dimension, and as we all know, time, given enough of it, destroys everything. Okay? That's why in Revelations, the beast is Saturn, because it regulates time. Given enough of it, it will kill you, your friends, your pets, destroy, rust, break down everything in the third dimensional level. And death is always associated with sadness and wailing and gnashing of teeth. Because, see, they took a story of physics and they twisted it and they came up with a bullshit story that some broad, you know, running around in her birthday suit, you know, giggling and ate an apple she wasn't supposed to. The tree of life that they're referring to in Genesis is the Kabbalistic tree of life. First of all, the Old Testament was never supposed to be in your possession. The Jews did not want that out because those stories are coded stories that are written in high physics. All the Old Testament is stories about reflections, light waves, atomic weights, dates, what else? Vibrations, mathematical codes that are what that thing up in the sky creates, that makes the reality that we live in. So for all intents and purposes, that thing is God to this planet, not to me. I believe in the guy that's above him. Problem is, we don't know what his name is. So that's why I believe in Jesus. It's the only guy in between me and the Creator. Okay? Let's watch the graph here. You see how it goes round and round? You see the green? Okay, you see that's the serpent that's in the Garden of Eden. Okay? You see it? You see how that's sine wave? See that? Okay, you see how that works? Okay, now we're going to move on. I want you to look at the equation, and this is going to explain to you why I know that this is bullshit out of the Bible, what they're talking about. The Bible is not bullshit, but with the way that they crafted the story and made you think of something else is. And on top of that, when you're trying to explain physics to a guy, you know, that doesn't understand physics, you have to use other means, and that's why they use the story of the Garden of Eden. So let's look at the way it's written. Okay, there's 3 axis points there, all right, which is what creates the cube. All right, but let's look at it. This is interesting. Why am I going to go? Why am I going to go to hell when I die? Look what's in parentheses. Cause I sin. You see, they just crafted a story from physics, and they did that because back in the old days, like I said, in order to get the message across to somebody, you put it in a story form. Okay? This is what this is all about. There's no doubt in my mind. Just, okay, here we have a woman with an hourglass. Yeah? Okay? She's got her arm resting on a skull, which represents death. The thing that's above her head is called Oribus. It's a snake biting its tail. Okay? That represents Saturn. Okay? All halos that you see represent Saturn. All circles, the earrings that you wear, women, those earrings are a representation of time, and it comes out of Babylonia. It represents Saturn. Same thing with your wedding ring. This is obviously a picture from a society called the Rosicrucians, which is, I guess they're kind of like Masons. That's why she's holding a rose. But the hourglass and the Oribus above her head, so this is basically telling you that Eve, okay, the story of Adam and Eve, it was time. That was time. It wasn't a serpent as in a snake. It was a serpent as far as time. A sine wave. Okay? All right. You see it go around and around? You see the red colors? Red, yellow, blue, green? That's a time cube. But if we look at it, look how it's split into 4 sections. The circle is, right? Okay. Let's see where we've seen that before. There you go. There it is. You see it's on top of a church. It represents time and space. It has nothing to do with Jesus Christ. It has nothing to do with saving your soul. It has everything to do with a business. The 503, it's a government code. Churches don't pay taxes because it's nothing more than a government installation. And pretty much that's all that I really wanted to show you guys today.
I guess there's a plan for all of us. I had to die. Twice. Just to figure that out. Like the book says, he works his work in mysterious ways. Some people like it. Some people don't.
The Bible's there for a reason. Has it been tampered with? Yes. In some ways. Has it been changed? Yes and no. When I say yes and no, you gotta understand the manuscript that the King James Version was translated from is totally different than the manuscript that 95% of the other Bibles were translated from. I think the Texas Receptus is the King James Version, and then the other versions, which were translated by Westcott and Hort, with the Alexandrian text. You could spend weeks researching that, and I would recommend you do it just for your own benefit. Now, am I saying that if you read a Bible that's an NIV, well, that's a bad example, New American Standard, whatever you want to call them, are they bad Bibles? No. You can get the same thing out of any Bible for the most part, and you could find the truth. See, the truth is there, and the ones that seek will find it regardless of where it's at. See, Jesus said the kingdom of heaven is within. It's not out here. It's not in my sight. It's not anywhere. It's inside. We have God inside of us. We have the ability to know the truth. But the truth isn't just given to us because we want it. It's brought to us through humility, service to others, and like I said, seeking you will find. Once you understand certain concepts about what Jesus taught, what the Bible teaches, and you can get all kinds of different stuff out of the Bible. It depends on where your heart's at when you're reading it. You know what I mean? If you don't want to learn anything from the Bible, you don't want to figure out stuff, you're not going to. There's lots of hating on the Bible. Sorry, I'm driving here. And it's raining. But back to what I was saying about the different manuscripts. Going back to even before then, before those manuscripts, there was Sumerian texts. And some of the stories in the Bible are Sumerian stories from the Sumerian gods. A lot of the Old Testament gods you see in there are the Sumerian gods, not the actual Father. Now, this is my opinion. I'm not going to judge you if you go to church and you sing song. I was in a church one time and they were singing a song to Yahweh, and I about fell over because I'm like, I'm not singing to Yahweh. I know the difference between the Father and the Yahweh, and Yahweh is not the Father. But anyway, I'm all over the place here. Those stories were mixed in. There are different versions and different gods in the Old Testament. I think there's verses in there talking about smashing children against, they'll use it. But my point is, the Bible's going to be used against us, and it's already starting. Because it can be so widely interpreted. Me, myself, I stand firm on the teachings of Jesus Christ. But I stand firm on the whole Bible, because it's there for a purpose. Because I believe the Father to be omnipotent. It means everything happens for a reason and a purpose in His time. I believe in the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. He came to the Jews because the Jews were the chosen race of that time. Were they the chosen of the Father, or were they the chosen of the Hebrew God? And that's a question you'll have to answer. I'm not going to get into that. Psalm 82. Look it up and just read that one. And that tells you about these gods from the Old Testament that were the judges. And talks about the foundations of the earth are out of whack. David was praying to the Father because the judges, the gods, they had fallen. They weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing when they originally were sent here. The whole system is a failure. We are part of a failed system. I'm trying to show people that the Bible, even though it has problems, the truth is there. You just have to find it. And you have to use the Spirit of truth. The Spirit of truth is not just your spirit, it's a Him. It's part of the triune God. Now, like I said, there's been a lot of attacks on the Bible, and there's going to be more. But if you want to know the truth about the Bible, shut everything off. Don't look for opinions from churches. Don't look for opinions from Bible haters. Do some research yourself. Spend about a month, and you may grasp the beginnings of the truth then. I just know there's not a greater feeling in the world than when the Spirit of truth brings you the truth, and you know it because you feel it, and it's an unexplainable feeling. Read the words of Jesus. Read the red letter. And just meditate on that. You have to be humble. If you're sitting there thinking this is a load of crap, then that's what it's going to be to you. A load of crap. Ask for the truth and see what happens.
My first question is regarding Isis, Ra, Elohim.
Yeah, Isis, Ra, El.
Okay.
Isis was a feminine principle of wisdom in Egypt, spelled I-S-I-S, Isis. Then the coming of one of the pharaohs changed the worship of Isis to the worship of Amun-Re, Amen Ra, which is incidentally why Christians still say Amen at the end of the prayer, because they're sending the prayer through God's Son, Amen Re, Amun Ra, Amen. And consequently, when the Phoenician Canaanites, when the Hebrews went north into Palestine, they encountered a people that were already there for thousands of years. They were called Palestinians, which was very clever. I mean, that's where you would expect to find Palestinians, is in Palestine. And so when they went into Palestine, they had already learned all the wisdom and the religious teachings of Isis, spelled I-S-I-S. Then they learned the new concept of the new religion of Amun-Re, R-A. And now they encountered the Palestinians, and the Palestinians' god was El, the planet Saturn, El, E-L. Consequently, the religion grew out of Isis, Ra, El, I-S-R-A-E-L. Israel is nothing more than Isis, Ra, and El. Consequently, there's nothing holy about Israel. And why is Jerusalem called the Holy City? The Holy City is because, yeah, they're full of holes. The Holy City is because every kind of licentious, filthy, degenerate religion that can come into the mind of men has been practiced there. Everything from child sacrifice, pornography, violence, human sacrifice, I don't care how filthy it is or how dirty it is, they were doing it in Jerusalem. And that's why symbolically God's Son, the light of the world, would say to Jerusalem, 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 killer of the prophets and stoner of those sent to you. Anything that is truly enlightened and intelligent wouldn't have a damn thing to do with you. All you do is child sacrifice, pornography, violence, money grubbing, money changers. The whole thing was filthy from day one. There ain't nothing holy in Jerusalem. Ain't never been nothing holy in Jerusalem, and there's nothing going to be holy in Jerusalem, Salt Lake City, Rome, or any place else. Religion is nothing more than manipulation of the human mind. There is a powerful spiritual dynamics to the universe, but unhappily most Americans haven't got into the famous idea about any of that. And I think that that's what's coming. I think there's going to come a time when we're going to start thinking in terms of, wait a minute, let's back up and look at this all over again. Who are we really, and what is astrology, and what is the Bible, and who really wrote it? And that's what I'm hoping to do, to be able to enlighten people that there's something else going on we haven't been told.
To me, okay, to me, ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. Now, it is very difficult to do. I mean, it is easy for me to put on a show and be cocky, and be flooded with a cocky feeling and then feel like pretty cool and all that. Or I can make all kinds of phony things, you see what I mean? Blinded by it. Or I can show you some really fancy movement. But to express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself, and to express myself honestly, that, my friend, is very hard to do, and you have to train.
I can't explain why I shine and no one else shines. I think everybody shines in different things. And a lot of things I can't do. I can't play basketball like every other black person in America. But I can act. I know how to go to that true spot in myself because I'm there every day. I can be me. I can be whoever because I'm true to me. I can go to neutral easily. A lot of people, black, white, Mexican, young or old, fat or skinny, have a problem being true to themselves. They have a problem looking in the mirror and looking directly into their own souls. The reason I sell 6 million records, the reason I could go to jail and come out without a scratch, the reason I can walk around, the reason I am who I am today is because I can look directly into my face and find my soul. It's there. It's not sold. I didn't sell it. It's still within me. I still feel it. My heart is still connected to my body. So I could, any character, I'm going to bring that intensity, that truth, that honesty to it because I have to repay for that blessing from Black Jesus, from God. I have to pay for that by shining. If he give you the voltage and you waste it, that's the curse. He gave me the voltage, I'm a shine. It's not mine, it's from God, it's God. Not that it's so special that nobody got it, but all of our gifts and blessings and our strengths and our weaknesses come from God. Come from Black Jesus or whoever comes from within you, you know what I mean? So it's not really tricky. Everybody can do it if they just can go to that spot. I guess all the things that happened to me in my life allow me to go there easily.
When I look around, I always learn something, and that is to be always yourself and to express yourself, to have faith in yourself. Do not go out and look for a successful personality and duplicate him. Now, that seems to me that is the prevalent thing happening in Hong Kong. Like they always copy mannerisms but they never start from the very root of his being, and that is, how can I be me?
Every day when I'm breathing, it's for us to go farther, you know? Every time I speak, I want the truth to come out. You know what I'm saying? Every time I speak, I want to shiver. You know, I don't want them to be like, they know what I'm going to say because it's polite. They know what I'm going to say. And even if I get in trouble, you know what I'm saying? Ain't that what we're supposed to do? I'm not saying I'm going to rule the world or I'm going to change the world, but I guarantee that I will spark the brain that will change the world. And that's our job, is to spark somebody else watching us.